According to the Ghana Health Service, 417 suicide attempts were made in the first half of this year alone. Today happens to be World Suicide Day, and today our conversation is centering around suicide and prevention. I have some exciting guests in the house today, and we are going to discuss this topic. So I'll just move straight to them, let them introduce themselves and tell us where they are coming from. Then we zoom straight into the conversation. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start with Madam. Please, your name and where you're coming from.
My name is Sister Rejoice Enyonam Weduafia. I'm a clinical psychologist and a lecturer at the University for Development Studies, Tamale.
I am Rukaya Inusa, counselor and a guidance and counseling coordinator at Kumbungu Senior High School and also at Tole, Ghana.
Okay.
And my name is Daniel Aqua, clinical psychologist at Tamale Teaching Hospital.
Okay. So today we are talking about suicide and prevention, and I understand that there is a theme for this year's celebration. So I think we can talk about that first. So this year's suicide prevention theme is creating hope through action. Okay. Do you have anything to add, please?
Adding to the theme, the hope and the action seeks to decriminalize the suicide attempts in our society. Most of the time we realize that people who have attempted suicide are considered suspects or criminals. And we think that we shouldn't see it in that way, but helping them in a way that will restructure their cognition about themselves. And so criminalizing attempted suicide, it is not something that is going to help, but then it worsens the situation. And so whoever fails in a suicide attempt and suicide intention will tend to complete it, because at the end he or she will be seen as a criminal. And so the theme for this year.
Okay. All right. Madam Enyenam, do you want to say something?
Sure. I also want to say that I think this year's team wants to challenge everybody, not only mental health workers, but families, peers, to be there for each other, that we are each other's keeper. And when we see that somebody is down or is in some kind of crisis, that we take action, either to listen to them or to show them, point to them where they can get help. All of that is important.
Okay. So, when we say suicide, what do we term as suicide? Let me start from Madam Enyenam.
Okay. So, when we say suicide, we are talking about an individual who have ended their own life from various reasons. Okay, it could be that the person is in pain, whether emotionally or physically, and for which they don't know how to deal with it, and they feel like it's better for them to die, and they really kill themselves through various means.
Okay.
Yeah. So adding to what Doc is saying, sometimes suicidal actions may fail. Yes, the intention of the individual engaging in a suicidal action is the intention to kill him or herself, to just end his own life, because the person feels there is no hope and nobody is there to listen, and nobody feels he or she should be associated with them. And so their intention is just to end their lives and to rest. That is what they think. But then sometimes it is not as they see things. Yes, there's a better way to life than just going in for suicide.
Okay, so Mr. Daniel, Do you want to add something?
Yes,
okay.
please. What I want to add is the three main areas that both of them have captured, but because of discussion, we are just theming them.
Yeah.
The end result of death. In defining suicide, the end result of death is then the second thing is what she mentioned, the intention. The intention of the individual is to cause death to him or herself. And the third aspect is self-injurious behavior, the mode and means at which the individual knows that this thing that I'm going to do is going to cause possible injury, and the injury is going to lead to this. So when we are looking at suicide, we look at these things, the end result, which is mostly death, that we use to qualify the suicide, but then also we have the intention and the self-injurious behaviors.
Okay. I think that when it comes to certain issues, I think when we talk about teenage pregnancy has its own terminologies in when we are discussing it. Drug abuse has its own terminologies. So I want us to look at terminologies related to suicide and what we need to know about that. So I'll start from you, Mr. Daniel. What are some of the terminologies associated with suicide?
Okay, we've already defined suicide.
Yes.
So suicide
is out.
shouldn't be. But then also, most of the time, the end goal of the individual is actually end the life, but some people are not successful. So that is where suicide attempt comes in. So suicide attempt is when the individual engages in self-injurious behavior with the mind of ending the life, but does not become successful in actually ending the life. In that case, the act is considered as suicide attempt. Then also we have suicide intention. The suicide intention, the person has the mental imagery, the person has the thought, and the person thinks about wanting to commit suicide, but this remains in the head of this individual. Some individuals may even put in certain actions, which when we are going ahead we'll be discussing some of these things to show that, oh, okay, this person might be harboring these edges in that case we would say that the person has the intention of engaging in suicide. Then also there is a common term that goes around, that suicide contagion, and this one is very common, and it's mostly related to, or we can see it within specific groups, though it can go beyond the groups. For example, we can say that this year when we heard that, oh, okay, one policeman committed suicide, before we realized another policeman, because it begins to replicate within the same domain. And this is something that has been found in discussing suicide. So we have the suicide contagion also, and the explanation has been, it could be, as I said, the same with police. It could carry out within the youth. If one youth sees that this person has carried on, before you realize another person has also followed him, though it can cut across these groups that we are. Then we have survivors, those who have lived after possible attempt, and the survivor tag is used for those who are going round to proclaim the good news about the need not to. So these individuals attempted suicide and are using it to further the good cause of suicide prevention. So then we have self-injurious behaviors, and these seem to be very common. And self-injurious behaviors are actions that individuals will inflict that can cause harm on themselves, and there are various actions. The most common one is the cutting, and you see that this individual knows that, okay, the cutting can either lead to death, or the person feels that, no, okay, I'm not doing this but the most common explanation that I have gotten is the physical pain took me away from the emotional pain that I am receiving. So the person cutting, the physical pain at least give him or her a temporary respite from all the emotional pain. So we have there are others also, scratching. People have been found to burn themselves also. These are all self-injurious behaviors, and these are parts that are related to suicide. So
Okay, so are there more terminologies you want to add on?
I would want to add one to what he has said.
Yeah.
Most of the time we hear on the media that somebody has committed suicide. We are trying to move away from somebody has committed suicide to somebody has somebody is dead through suicide, so that it will not make committed suicide as a crime. So putting committed suicide makes it a criminal act, and so people would try to be afraid, or they are scared of the word, and so even in a failed or attempted suicide, you see that the person is trying to just end it all, so that the person will not be taken as a criminal.
Okay. So, Madam Enyona, would you say that the thought of people being penalized for attempting suicide is contributing to the rates of suicide?
Definitely, I would not say. I think it's a very debatable or contagious situation, but it is true that we tend to see suicide to be something that as she said, that you committed something and so it's an offense, so you need to be punished for it. But in the situation that we are looking at, it's not that somebody is in pain and is looking for relief or something to help him deal with what they are living with. Okay, so to say that I am suffering something and I get punished on top of the suffering, it's for me, it's too much to deal with. But to go with your question, I am not sure that because they say it's criminal, people will continue to do it. Except if I didn't understand the question well.
Okay, so I am saying that someone tries to take his life. I understand that I've watched some documentary where people that survive suicide attempts actually say that maybe the moment they hang the noose around their neck or stepped off a bridge or something, they regretted trying to take their lives. But what if I live in a country where I know in other countries they get help for you. You go to therapy, you are in the hospital and all of that. But here I understand that you are being penalized for trying to commit suicide. So if I know that I'm trying to kill myself, I'm unsuccessful, but I know that if people find out, there is going to be a problem on top of whatever it is that is ailing me, that is pushing me to commit suicide. So I might as well just do what? Finish the whole thing. Don't you think that can be a contributing factor to people actually going through with taking their lives?
Sure.
Daniel, you want to say something?
Yes, I think each law has a pathway of working. So let's take, for example, the analogy that we are saying. The research shows that individuals who do commit suicide, likelihood that there would be a repetition. So if indeed we want to help this individual, that means that we have to break the link between first initiation and subsequent recommitting or taking their life through suicide. But this is the case that the person thinks that after the first one, if I do come out, there is a penalization waiting for me.
Yeah.
I have to serve this time. I have to go through this punishment. I'm already going through a lot. So why would I give myself that ordeal? So then, okay, if first I'm not successful, I wouldn't even come out in the first place to say, unless maybe, and that might also contribute to how families try to protect their people.
Yeah.
So when they see that someone have attempted suicide, then they try to protect. They wouldn't, because if they send it to the hospital, the possibility that okay, police report. When the police report, then the family's name comes in. So we would rather want to solve it in the house, and these individuals don't get help.
Yeah.
And if they don't get help, there's a high likelihood that it is going to repeat. So directly or through some pathway, the law criminalizing suicide is not helping our fight for prevention of suicide. This is because it prevents individuals from seeking help from the first. It allows families to rather possibly protect their names more, knowing that when it goes out, the police will come snooping around, looking, okay, what happened? No, we don't want that ordeal. So one way or the other, the law is, it was 1960. A law in 1960, and we are in 2021. If this has served its purpose, then we should look at the way at which it will rather help us, rather than we still sticking to this old dogma and it is not helping the cause.
Okay, so what causes suicidal behaviors? What causes suicidal behaviors? Why does an individual just sit and wake up one day and decides that, you know what, I want to take my life? It's chilling when I think about it. So what causes suicidal behaviors?
Mostly it is people living with mental conditions that resort to suicide, and also people who have lost all hopes in what they are finding themselves in. Also, like somebody is going through an ordeal and the person seems not to get the support or doesn't see any light through what he or she is living in, and all the person sees is darkness, and so the person feels that, why don't I just end all this? And so the person will resort to suicide. Also, sometimes people living with mental conditions, we find in our environment, people will isolate themselves from them, wouldn't want to associate themselves, and so those people feel, oh, then I'm alone in all these. So why should I continue to live? Because nobody even wants to relate with me in the first place. And we are in a society, and so we have to relate with each other to live happily. So if you find yourself in such situations, a person is likely to engage in suicide, and so it will not help in the long run.
Okay.
Yes. So also for some people, especially people in school, sometimes when you're not performing well, or there is so much stress on what you need to do and how much you need to achieve, and one feels that they're not able to lift it up to the level at which people are expecting from them, then they feel like, I cannot bear the shame of failing. And so the best thing is to just end my life. I don't have to see it. For some people, it's just the social pressure of wanting to be somebody whom they are not. And so once they get discovered, then it's like, I need to. Also in relationships, in normal, regular relationships, especially in romantic relationships, somebody gets disappointed and he feels like, I cannot bear this, I cannot bear the shame of being rejected or abandoned by my boyfriend or the other, and so it's better to end it for myself. For others, it's economic reasons. That they cannot get ends meet. You can find a father who feels very responsible, but they don't have a job that they can bring food home for their children. And just looking at that and the humiliation that goes around it, they prefer to die rather than face that. And so that also leads some people to want to commit suicide.
So mental health has been talked about, and it just seems to be the largest contributor to suicide, with depression being the number one contributor within this mental health. domain. Some people put it between even 85 to 95%. But no matter the percentage, that means that there are other things outside the mental health domain that is still contributing to suicide. The issue of possible drug use also has been identified as contributing to the issue of suicide that we are having around. So mental health condition, the use of illicit drugs, alcohol abuse, and also then also let's say that life challenges, that some are actually unplanned, some take us by shocks. Sister Rejoice have talked about job or financial for what happened last year, like was it last year or last 2 years? The bank sector was hit.
Yeah.
And we heard a story, is it in Savana also, a lady, because of this up and down. So when these life challenges hit us and it's unplanned, sometimes how we are able to cope is question, and we are pushed beyond our limit. So mental health, yes, but other conditions also, our other situation, life challenges that they've talked about also significantly contribute. Then also one aspect is physical conditions, physical health. Someone continues to battle with a physical condition, this physical pain. I've sought for treatment. I'm becoming a burden on my financially. I'm getting drained, etc. Physical health also has been proven that a possible pathway to people taking their lives.
Okay. So, which age group is greatly affected by suicide?
Currently, the age group that suffers is ranging from age 45 to 64.
Okay.
Yes, greatly because during their youthful ages, they experience so much depression, and that will be around the years 1990. So they growing up, they experience a lot of depression at that time, and so in their old age, they have gone through a lot in life, and so any little challenge they are facing, most of them resort to committing suicide. And some of these depression which is leading to the increase in this age range is because at that time most of them endured some kind of hardships, and 20% of them who happen to be military officers or veterans now had undergone some kind of stressful situations then, and so getting to their retiring age, they find it difficult coping with some of their life stresses, and so they resort to suicide.
Okay.
Let me also, talking about the group here, she's talked about 15 to 45 to,
Yeah.
but the second largest group is 75 years going. But there is, since Savana is youth-oriented,
Yeah.
there is a phenomenon that when you look within the youthful age, suicide is the second largest contributor to mortality among the youth age.
Okay.
So even though when we are talking about the adult, they have higher risk of suicide because they also have other physical conditions that send them to their grave. But with the youth, we have the youthful exuberance, we have the strength there. But then suicide is sending the youth to their graves at a faster rate. Then also the group women as compared to men. When we look at the ratio, some put it at 4:1, some put it about 3.5:1, 3.5 rounding off is to something like the 4. That means that when you look at, there's a high possibility that males will commit or end their life actually end up ending their life as compared to females. Even though females attempt suicide more, males rather end up
follow through with it.
Yes, follow through with it. So when you look at the statistic at the end, those who achieve the purpose of it, there are more males, about 4:1, even though more females attempt suicide. And various explanations have been given to this. The man would rather look for the quicker one. But then the female will take the milder form. And when it comes to seeking for solution, also women are good at that. They would rather send signals to seek for help. But the man, before he would get to that, that means that all options so he would rather end it and make it quicker. So these are some of the additional groups also.
Okay.
That
I'm intrigued by the male ratio.
Okay.
You talked about how they are quick to actually end their lives, unlike females that attempt more. What do you think could be the cause of that? Is it because that society contributes to this? Because we have this whole mentality of having males being, strong and all of that.
Yeah.
Do you think that could be a contributing factor to that?
It is. It might be multifactorial, but we wouldn't discount the societal contribution.
Yeah.
As a man, if you are going through a challenge and you go to tell a female colleague, there is a high possibility that you are a man. You are a man, you have to be a man. Mm-hmm. And as to the definition of being a man, society knows what being a man is. When a man is crying, a man is not supposed to cry. So actually, when it comes to men settling whatever emotional difficulties, that society doesn't create that much room. So they keep bottling it inside, bottling it until the lid is full, then the explosion comes in. So from the societal point of view, yes, are we even creating avenues for them to come out, to say that, okay, this is what we are. If a man is facing marital stress in the house, the wife is beating him.
Yeah.
Do you think the man will come out? He will come out and you will insult him.
Yeah.
That you are allowing your wife to. So as a society, when it comes to us being men, we have certain criteria that a man is supposed to, and this has been enshrined in us, even redeveloping, and you know that as a man, this is how you are supposed to. So if you get anything that is deviating from what you've been, you yourself will begin to question your own identity.
Yeah.
That am I man enough? Am I man enough? And some of these things can greatly contribute to issue of suicide among youth.
Okay, so if you just joined us, today is World Suicide Day and we are having a discussion on suicide and what to do to prevent it. You can join the conversation by leaving your questions or your suggestions or your comments in the comment section, and then we have experienced people in the studio today that can help you with all the answers to your question. Moving on, suicide, does it have tell signs? What are some of the things that you would see or you would notice that you think that's no? Maybe this person is not openly saying, I need help, but I think that this person is going through it, or this person is likely to attempt, it's suicidal. Madam Enyonam, I would like you to take that for us.
So there are some people, when things are going well with them, we see what they are doing. They are maybe active people, but all of a sudden we see they are withdrawing, they are isolating themselves. Or somebody might already be threatening, can say it somehow to somebody, or I think I'm fed up, it's just better that I die. Some of these statements, they look like they are just passing comments, but they are important to look to follow through also. And as Dan said earlier, alcohol is an issue as well, and drugs. Sometimes we are quick to judge, especially young people. We say, oh, he was just here. now look, he's taking this, he's taking that. But we don't know, probably they are trying to do that in order to either overdose themselves or do something that will end them where they really want to go. They want to drink themselves to death. So it's time, this is already a sign that we can look at as well. And also just the behavior of this whole thing of hopelessness, despair. Someone is just giving up and giving up and giving up. It's also a little sign that something is not going well and we need to pay attention and do something about it. Ask the relevant questions that we need to ask as well.
Okay. Okay, so still on that question, I think that some of the people, known figures that have committed suicide, looks like people with very full lives. I think Robin Williams was a comedian.
Okay.
Avicii was a musician. These were very loud people, very active. And if you would ask people, they would say that, sometimes they say that, oh, he didn't even look like anything was troubling him. Like he was so full of life. We went drinking, we went partying, and then the next day we find out that he's hanged himself or jumped off a cliff or something.
Sure.
With people with very active lives who are loud, is there any way you can sense somehow that something is troubling them or they need help, even if they do not say anything?
People who are close to them can tell, because sometimes there is the outside face, but then there is this inner emptiness that is lingering, and for which also, for some of those people, even the performance, the urge to perform, to please, to make people happy, move. But when they realize that at some point they cannot do it to that degree, it's better to die than to lose the chain that I'm the famous this or that. And for some of those people, sorry, maybe there's the issue of drug also to help this performance. So they're not performing with the normal, what will I say, the regular energy, but they are taking some other things to help them do that. And the withdrawal of that can also be depressing and can create this emptiness, this void after you have gotten a lot of hype. Then you come and sit with the reality alone in your room by yourself. It is something that it takes someone who is courageous, especially as we were talking about men, to be able to say, I do need some help. Even though I am popular, I am rich, but there is something in me that needs to be fixed. And we can also talk about, as we talk about mental illness as well, there might be something else that the person is facing that we don't know about. It could be physical illness, but for which they can go and perform all right, but they will always come back to the me. And that's what all of us, especially young people, need to be comfortable with. Who am I? Am I happy with the who am I? Or do I want to be something else?
But then the angle that you are coming from also, there are individuals who take it upon themselves that, okay, this is where I would like my life to end. So in that case, within that shortest possible time, he or she makes sure that he explores. So there are individuals who would rather be the hyper form of themselves. So if they don't like going out, this is the time that they become more outgoing. If they don't like maybe dance, this is the more that as if they are living the last days of their lives. So we might not necessarily be able to use whether the person, this external way of judging whether someone is happy. And I like what Sister Rejoice said, someone closer to him will be able to detect that despite the external, despite the facade that the person is putting on, when we go inside the room, these are the sentiments that he or she has been sharing. So it calls about individuals getting closer to these people that we don't know, and it will be easier for us to pick certain things that deviate from their normal routine. Maybe the person was performing okay, but you see that no, within the last 3 to 4 months, it was something else over the roof. At least there may be some linking variables there that we can pick up.
Okay, so I'm going to Facebook to read some of the comments we have from people that have joined us. So Musa Hafiz says, comparison is one of the deadly factors. I think he's actually referring to why people, the whole mental health thing. And then he also says guidance and counseling need to be strengthened. Yes, we'll come to that. Abdul Rashid Imoro says, if a child occasionally cries and hurts himself or herself with a knife or any sharp object they find, could this be a sign of someone who is suicidal? So I would want us to explore Rashid's comments.
Okay.
If someone is hurting themselves,
Okay.
would you say the person is suicidal? Is that a cry for help?
Yes, it is. Because sometimes we will need to ask questions as to why the person does what he is doing to him or herself. So depending on the age, so if he's saying a child, we don't know what age is he talking about. So let's say that an adolescent child. So if an adolescent child is resorting to cutting him or herself, we need to ask questions as to why the child is doing that, because there could be something bothering this child that he or she is not able to voice out. He or she is not comfortable to talk to people about what he or she is experiencing. And so engaging such people will be a step to addressing some of these situations, because if we underlook them and we call it naughty, it will be something that will surprise us one day.
Okay. And we have what we call the suicidal behaviors, and self-injurious behavior might be one of the things that we need to consider. So this is a self-injurious behavior, but as I said, the one factor in definition is the intent. Sometimes the person have seen that this is the way that I do to get attention. So if that is the case, it's just a means to an end, and the means to an end is to get parental attention, to get societal attention, etc. It's not for me to live on this earth also. So then, as he said, we have to gather more data, but when it comes to self-injurious behavior, it's one of the clinical signs that we look at in determining the risk factor in relation to suicide.
Okay. And so what help is available to individuals with suicidal thoughts? I think you work in the school setting. Too. So what help is available for people? And someone made mention of strengthening the guidance and counseling units in schools. I've been to school before, and I think that I would say that what I saw during my time in school isn't something that I think is very, effective. So what are the plans? What are we doing now?
I would say that we are just children under the umbrella that we are guidance and counseling coordinators. Yeah. Because I'm saying that because sometimes we are not given the needed attention, the needed space to operate within the schools. Yes, you are the guidance and counseling coordinator in the school, but you have limited time meeting up with students. You have limited time assessing individual students who even come to your office for assistance, because you are given roles to play in the school as a teacher, because they will not just leave you to operate as a counselor. And so the space needed for you to operate fully as a counselor and be able to assess students' issues in the school is limited. So I'm just urging that stakeholders involved should come together and look at the guidance and counseling department in our schools, because it is an important, very important aspect or department in the school that we would need to look at. Not necessarily talking about drug use or suicidal thoughts, but then students have so many challenges right from their homes that they need people to talk to or listen to, yet the space given cannot do all that, and so it is limiting people to addressing some of these issues.
Okay. So if you are still with us, we are talking about suicide and prevention. So you can join the conversation. You can also leave your comments or your question. We have experts in the house that will help address them. And also, I am feeling very generous. So I am giving out my first airtime, which is Vodafone. So if you are still with us, fastest fingers get this. The numbers are as follows: 38 65 49 64 21 58 54. I repeat: 38 65 49 64 21 5854. That is Vodafone. So if you get it, kindly let me know in the comment section. The discussion is still ongoing and it's not too late to join in or to share for it to benefit someone too. So we are still on the guidance and counseling thing. Well, how about you?
So I want to say that, well, when you look around, we don't really have a lot of personnel, but we have a few mental health personnel in the system, and for which we can use, where we can get help from. For instance, in the hospital here in Tamale, there is a mental health unit, there's a psychology.
That is the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Okay.
Also, at the Central Hospital now, there is another psychologist there.
Oh,
we have
wow.
also our own Tulek, that also does a lot of advocacy, give services, psychological services to people, but obviously it is inadequate. We need more people, and we need, in terms of training, and then we also need what we are doing now, that people are aware that there is help close by. And in the school system, as we said, it doesn't really have to be as it stands. In the university also, they have a counseling unit where students can go to. But I want to go in this direction of the people willing to go. You know, I don't want to look weak. I don't want to be tagged, in quote, mad, and all of these stigmatizing terminologies that we use. And so people do not go for even the limited or what is available. So I want to say that there is something available. There are in our setup now, places that you can go and get help for yourself. And also, as burdensome as it is even in the secondary schools, they still make time to listen to them and to show them and to point to them where to go. But if you don't go, we cannot help you. And so we do need people to know that it is normal. It's just like the way we have malaria and we have to go to the doctor and get help. If you have a mental condition, it's also normal. It's part of you. You can ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. So there is help available, but of course it's inadequate, and we are asking the relevant stakeholders to do something. At least almost every CHIP compound, can have one person that can be there to listen and help in this way.
Okay.
It affects everyone, the effect. And in discussing suicide, most of the times we need not discuss the methods. But if you are behind the therapist chair and you get some of the methods that individuals would want to use, you will see that this method that person wants to use, if he or she is going, is not her alone. It's putting someone else at risk. So you might think that, no, I am well and healthy, everything is okay, but someone's action might come to you. So it's cause for effort from all levels, from the family system, from the society system, and they are talking about laws or things that maybe policymakers have to. The hospitals, most of the times when it comes, so if someone attempts suicide, what they do is stabilize the individuals. How many people will refer after the stabilizer? How many people will refer for possible psychological? And even if they want to do the referral, where are they doing the referral to? Tamale Teaching Hospital, at least afterwards stabilized, refer to the psychologist. What happens to West Hospital? Because how do you get, this came, but I know some of these things, so they still keep on going back to, so we have to the personnel area. After the physical treatment, the cause of it most of the time is not the physical, and if you don't handle the psychological aspect, the likelihood that it is going to be repeated, and that is one thing being associated with individuals who attempt suicide. So as for the hospital, the protocol is stabilize the individual, get psychological aid and the psychological aid, if the person is willing, currently is available at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, the Central Hospital. Tulek as a private facility also is contributing its own quota, but the family system, please let's identify those who are in need very early. Let's be a family and support, especially the youth, because it is becoming alarming and something needs to be done about it.
Okay, so you mentioned Tamale Teaching Hospital and Central Hospital having clinical psychologists, and then you mentioned Tulek too. I think that is what is new to me. Can you please share some light on what exactly Tulek does?
Tulek is a non-governmental organization, and it is a self-funded organization. Yes, and it seeks to provide psychological services, counseling, mental health, anything that has to do with the psychological well-being of the individual. And it focuses so much on the youth, and it tries to help help individuals to identify themselves and to address their own situations and be healthy in the society. Yes.
Okay. So all too soon, I think we are coming to the end of our program. But before I take my final words from each one present, I'm giving out the second airtime. I'm a very generous person like that. So if you have stayed with us up until this point, thank you very much. And I am giving out the second airtime, which is also Vodafone, and the numbers are as follows: 28402996128005. I repeat, 28402996128005. If you get it, do indicate it in the comment section and let me know. I wish we had more time, because this is a discussion that I think that cannot be exhausted in an hour session. But I am very grateful that you are here today and you've given us the information that I think that would help somebody out there. So before we wrap up, your final words, Madam Egenam.
So I want to say, just like this year's theme that has been given, that everyone be somebody that offers hope, that takes time to support somebody living with mental health, in order that they can get what they need in order to be healthy, and also that they don't get to that point where they would have to kill themselves. So that is my hope. My hope is that we can do something to prevent suicide. And it's not an organization, it's not just one person, it is a collective effort. Everyone is involved and everyone has to, I would say pastors and preacher people, they need to talk about it. In the families, in our schools, everyone needs to. And you who are in the media, you are doing your part, but you can do more so that many more people's life will be safe.
Okay.
I want to say that we should be each other's keeper. And so let's look out for some of these things, even on social media.
Very big thank you to everyone that tuned in today, and also a very big thank you to my guests that came on the show today, and also to the technical team, Solomon, Arafat, and Adongo. Thank you very much. If I don't mention their names, they'll kill me. So thank you very much for watching today. And until we come your way, same time next week, my name is Rahel Mshi, and I was your host for today.